Do you feel the weight of your journey, as if the lessons you have learned remain just beyond your grasp? Even when the path feels endless, each experience, each reflection, challenge, and moment of listening has been quietly shaping who you are becoming. The Pilgrim of Echoes, Mindfulness, Reflection, and Inner Return, in verses 41 to 45, guides you through 5 interconnected moments of growth. The path through mirrors follows the seeker as she uncovers hidden truths within herself. The House of Whispering Bones guides the seeker to transform echoes of the past into understanding. The Lantern of Remembered Souls illuminates the seeker's heart with the wisdom of memory. The Mountain That Listens helps the seeker gain clarity and strength through patient observation. The Pilgrim's Return shows the seeker integrating all lessons and arriving fully whole. Together, these verses form a journey of mindfulness and reflection, showing how each insight connects and guiding you to greater peace, presence, and belonging. The seeker entered a passage where the light did not move forward, but returned. The walls were smooth and radiant, yet they were not stone, they were made of seeing. With each step she took, an image rose to meet her. Not a stranger, not an illusion, but herself, as she had been, as she believed herself to be, as she feared she might remain. The path did not curve or bend, yet it felt endless, for each reflection required presence before the next would reveal itself. At first, the seeker attempted to walk quickly. She lowered her gaze, hoping the mirrors would dissolve if she did not acknowledge them. But the passage did not yield. The air itself became still, as if waiting. She understood then that movement was not possible without attention. Only awareness would open the way. She lifted her eyes. One mirror revealed strength, hardened into control. Another showed compassion, offered selectively, guarded by fear of loss. Another reflected certainty, clung too tightly, mistaken for wisdom. None of the images spoke, yet each carried truth. They were not accusations. They were memories, held without judgment. The seeker felt the instinct to evaluate what she saw, to name some reflections as flaws and others as virtues. But the moment judgment arose, the mirror dimmed. The passage grew heavy. She realized that judgment was not clarity, but concealment. So she remained still. As she stood without defense, the mirrors shifted. They no longer showed moments frozen in time, but patterns unfolding. She saw how fear shaped her choices, how longing bent her perception, how silence sometimes replaced honesty. The mirrors were not revealing who she was, but how she moved through the world. Then, a deeper mirror emerged, darker and clearer than the rest. Within it, the seeker saw the belief she had carried unseen, the belief that she was separate. Separate from others, from the rhythm of life, from the source that breathes her into being. This belief had worn many forms, disguising itself as independence, protection, and strength. Until now, she had mistaken it for truth. She did not resist the reflection. She did not attempt to replace it. She allowed it to be seen. At that moment, the image loosened, as if relieved to release its claim. The seeker felt no victory, no loss, only a quiet unburdening. The path responded. The mirrors began to reflect space rather than form. Where faces once appeared, there was depth. Where judgments once echoed, there was stillness. She understood then that the mirrors had never been obstacles. They were invitations to honesty. She realized that the path through mirrors exists in every moment. Each reaction is a reflection. Each resistance reveals something unseen. Nothing encountered along the journey exists outside the self, and nothing within the self is unworthy of light. At the end of the passage, there was no final mirror. There was only an opening. Before stepping through, the seeker paused, not to look back, but to acknowledge. The mirrors were no longer required. Their purpose had been fulfilled. As she crossed the threshold, a knowing settled within her, that the one who walks without distortion does not eliminate reflection. She simply no longer mistakes it for the path itself. And thus, the seeker left the hall of mirrors, not perfected, not purified, but clear. The seeker approached the house with caution, sensing before seeing, feeling before knowing. It was neither large nor ornate, but it radiated presence. Every surface, every shadow, seemed alive with quiet murmurs, as if the walls themselves remembered. He felt the weight of something unseen pressing against the edges of perception, tugging at his awareness. Stepping inside, He noticed the subtle rhythm of the whispers. They were not loud. They did not demand attention. They floated in the air like breath held in patience, threading through the bones of the house and curling around the spaces between floorboards, door frames, and ceilings. Each step he took caused them to stir. He realized that nothing here was hidden. Everything simply waited to be heard. The seeker paused at the threshold of a dimly lit room. Within it, he saw shapes that hinted at figures long gone, not in flesh, but in echo. Skeletons arranged like memories, chairs leaning as if someone had recently left, and books stacked in quiet deliberation. The air was thick with past choices, abandoned words, and stories that had never found their voice. The house itself breathed these recollections into him, asking not for fear or judgment, but for attention. At first, he felt an urge to flee. The weight of forgotten lives, the accumulation of years no longer touched by human hands, pressed like gravity upon his chest. But the whispers were patient. They did not push or pull. They did not demand fear or submission. They only asked that he listen, and so he did. The seeker moved slowly, letting his senses stretch into the stillness. Each bone, each artifact, each fragment of presence carried a story. A child who had run here once, laughing. A scholar who had paused mid-sentence, thinking of words she never wrote. A warrior who had lain down, not in defeat, but in exhaustion. All of them lingered, not to haunt, but to share. The seeker understood then that the house did not exist to trap the past, but to offer guidance through it. He reached a room where the whispers grew clearer. They spoke in fragments, in sighs, in moments of recognition. The seeker realized that the bones and objects were mirrors, reflecting not only what had been, but what could be. He understood that every forgotten story, every abandoned hope, held a lesson. Every sorrow and triumph intertwined with others, shaping the pattern of life itself. He knelt in the center of the room, closing his eyes, and let the whispers flow through him. He felt the rhythm of ancient sorrow, the pulse of quiet joy, the weight of choices both noble and flawed. Each sound, each echo, settled into his awareness, weaving together the strands of memory and presence. The seeker saw that the house existed not for isolation, but for communion. Every whisper, every bone, every shadow was a teacher. They revealed that life is not linear, that the echoes of the past are not chains, but maps. They are reminders that he, too, is part of a continuum. That even when he feels lost, even when the world seems fractured, he carries within him the knowledge of those who came before and the potential to carry it forward. When he rose, he felt lighter, not because the weight had vanished, but because it had been acknowledged. The whispers no longer pressed against him. They flowed alongside him, a river of guidance that would remain wherever he went. The seeker left the house of whispering bones, knowing that memory, even when buried, is alive. Listening, he realized, is not passive. It is the first step to understanding, the first step to unity, the first step to transformation. And so, with the echoes of countless lives resting in quiet alignment around him, he stepped out, carrying both the weight and the wisdom of the house. The path continued, but the seeker no longer feared the unseen. He had learned that every whisper has meaning, and every story, no matter how faint, can illuminate the way forward. The seeker held the lantern loosely in her hand, feeling its warmth before seeing its glow. It was no ordinary light. It did not burn or flare, nor did it demand attention. Instead, it pulsed softly, like a heartbeat, resonating with the quiet hum of lives long past. Each flicker contained a story, each shadow a memory. And the seeker felt drawn toward the spaces where light met dark, where remembrance mingled with absence. She stepped into the dim corridor, the lantern illuminating the path just enough to reveal the outlines of figures standing still, frozen yet not gone. They were the souls of those who had walked before her, the ones whose lives had left echoes within the world. Some were familiar in shape, though their faces were shadows. Some were strangers, yet their presence seemed intimately known. The seeker realized that she was not alone. Every step she took stirred these echoes, and in turn, they illuminated the corners of her own heart she had long avoided. As she moved forward, the seeker noticed the subtle way the light revealed connections between the souls. Threads of warmth ran along the walls, tracing invisible paths between lives intertwined in unseen ways. She understood that the lantern did not simply reveal the past. It revealed patterns, guidance, and lessons waiting to be recognized. It was a light of insight, a tool to see how her choices could resonate, how even small acts could echo across time and space. The seeker paused in a room where the lantern shone brightest. She saw a figure who had once been her mentor in the small joys of life. A friend whose laughter she had forgotten, a stranger whose kindness had unknowingly guided her. Each soul offered something without words, a whisper of courage, a reminder of empathy, a spark of joy. She realized that remembrance was not about clinging to the past, but about allowing it to inform the present with clarity and purpose. Kneeling, the seeker let the lantern light wash over her. The warmth spread through her chest, filling empty spaces left by doubt, fear, and forgetfulness. She saw that life is a collection of intersecting paths, a network of souls guiding and learning from one another. The lantern illuminated not just those who had come before, but the paths she would continue to forge. Every choice, every act of compassion, every quiet recognition of connection became part of the ongoing story. The seeker rose, understanding that the lantern's light would travel with her, a reminder that memory, both personal and shared, is the source of guidance and strength. She no longer feared the shadows of the past. Instead, she embraced them, knowing that the wisdom of remembered souls could illuminate even the darkest corners of the journey. With each step forward, the seeker carried the glow of the lantern into the unknown. She had learned that remembering is not passive. It is an act of courage. It is a way to honor those who came before, to understand the present, and to walk into the future with clarity, presence, and connection. The lantern's light pulsed once more, soft and constant, as if to affirm that the seeker was never alone. She was part of a long line of souls, each leaving traces of insight, each carrying sparks meant to be shared. And so she walked, not in darkness, but in illumination, with the knowledge that every remembered soul contributes to the unity of all things. The seeker climbed slowly, feeling the weight of his thoughts pressing against his chest. Each step crunched on stones, echoing faintly through the stillness. He had journeyed far, seeking answers he could not yet name, searching for a place that might hold the clarity he needed. The mountain rose before him, silent and immense, its presence both daunting and reassuring. He sensed immediately that it did not judge, did not question, and yet it understood. As he ascended, he noticed how the wind carried subtle whispers, not voices of people, but the language of the earth itself. Rocks shifting beneath hidden streams, the rustle of unseen leaves, the steady rhythm of gravity pressing down. Each sound seemed deliberate, purposeful, waiting for him to notice. The seeker realized that the mountain was alive with attention. It listened. He paused on a plateau and let the quiet fill him. His doubts, his fears, his frustrations, all were laid bare against the patient stone. At first, he felt exposed, vulnerable, as if the mountain could see into the deepest corners of his being. But soon, he sensed that this exposure was not condemnation, but invitation. The mountain was offering him space to be fully present, to place his thoughts and worries into the stillness and hear them reflected back with clarity. The seeker knelt, closing his eyes, letting the rhythm of the mountain enter him. The wind became a teacher, the rocks a counselor. He felt the pulse of time itself, slow and steady, as if the mountain had watched countless lives rise and fall and had absorbed their lessons. He understood that listening is not passive. It is a practice of awareness, patience, and courage. The mountain did not speak in words, but in resonance, showing him that every question he carried already held part of its own answer. Hours passed, or perhaps moments. Time was irrelevant in this sacred exchange. He felt the weight of his worries lift slightly with each breath, replaced by an expanding sense of perspective. The mountain reminded him that life's challenges are not meant to crush, but to teach. That understanding comes not from shouting for answers, but from attuning to the quiet signals that the world offers. When he finally stood, he noticed the subtle changes in his perception. The wind no longer seemed random. The rocks, the soil, the distant clouds, all were part of a web of awareness he could touch with his senses. The mountain had not given him answers in the form he expected. Instead, it had given him the ability to listen, to discern, and to align his actions with the rhythm of the world. Descending the mountain, the seeker carried a newfound calm. He understood that every challenge, every uncertainty, could be met with patience, clarity, and trust. Even when life felt chaotic or overwhelming, he could remember the mountain's silent counsel. Listening, truly listening, is a path to strength, connection, and insight. And now he would walk that path, carrying the mountain within him wherever he went. The mountain remained behind, still and attentive, its quiet wisdom echoing in every step he took. The seeker stood at the edge of the path she once fled, her feet resting on ground that felt both familiar and newly alive. The journey had carried her through mirrors, bones, lantern light, and listening stone. She had crossed valleys of memory and climbed toward silence. Now, she faced the place she had left behind, not as an escape, but as an arrival. She expected resistance. She expected doubt. Instead, she felt a quiet recognition rise within her chest. The world before her had not changed in form, yet it had changed in meaning. The road was the same. The air carried the same weight. The horizon held the same promise. What had shifted was her way of seeing as she followed her steps, not as burdens but as companions. The voices of what she had learned moved with her, steady and calm. She no longer searched for signs in the distance. She felt them beneath her breath, within her posture, inside the way her attention rested gently rather than strained. The seeker realized that return was not reversal, it was integration. She was not undoing the journey. She was carrying it into every ordinary moment. The lessons of reflection, remembrance, listening, and presence now lived within her movements. She did not need to recall them consciously. They shaped her naturally, like a current guiding a river without effort. She passed through places that once stirred restlessness and fear. Where she had once rushed, she now paused. Where she had once resisted, she now observed. She saw how easily life offered meaning when she did not demand it. Every encounter became a mirror without distortion. Every sound became a signal rather than a distraction. In the stillness of an open clearing, the seeker stopped and closed her eyes. She felt the echoes settled into silence, not disappearing, but resting. The pilgrimage had not ended because there was nowhere left to go. It had ended because there was nothing left to flee. She understood now that seeking had never been about distance. It had been about attention. The return revealed a truth both simple and profound. She had always belonged, not to a place, not to a role, not to an identity shaped by others, but to the unfolding moment itself. She belonged to the act of noticing. She belonged to the breath that connected her inward world to the outer one. As she opened her eyes, the seeker saw the world respond. Colors appeared fuller. Sounds carried depth. Even silence felt generous. The echoes that once pulled her backward now supported her forward. The pilgrimage had refined her awareness, not removed her humanity. She would still feel uncertainty, still encounter loss, still meet questions without answers. But she would no longer mistake these moments as failures. They were part of the living path. The seeker stepped onward, not as a wanderer, but as a witness. She carried no map, no burden, no need to prove her arrival. The return was complete, not because the journey was finished, but because she now knew how to walk within it fully, and so the path did not close behind her. It opened beneath her feet, wherever she stood.